Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike Financial Education. Today we're going to talk about 6 lessons from the book The 48 Laws of Power. The book itself is not a financial education book, but some of its content can relate to financial education. I've kept the titles of the laws as they appear in the book, though the content itself is an adaptation of the points from a financial perspective. Lesson 1. Infection. Never associate with the unfortunate and unlucky. The name of this lesson can be a bit misleading. There's no intention not to have compassion or not to help those whose fate has been cruel too, but rather to distance ourselves from those who cause themselves and others misfortune and bad luck. Let's take 2 people as an example to understand the difference. The first person is a person of values who maintains their health, exercises, and eats properly. But due to bad luck, they contracted a rare and fatal disease. That person needs to receive help from others due to something that wasn't in their control. That person deserves to receive all the help and all the empathy from society. Helping such a person is a positive thing that both sides benefit from. The sick person gets help in their time of distress, and you get to help someone in need. The second person is someone whose life is full of bad habits, like smoking, eating unhealthy food, and drinking alcohol. In this case, unlike the first case, the health deterioration is because of the person's own doing, and not from an external factor. If you help such a person, there's a good chance that you will start adopting negative behavioral and thought patterns, and therefore, getting close to such people is dangerous. There's a saying that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, and therefore, connecting with unfortunate people who cause their own misfortune is something that will most likely cause you to become unfortunate yourselves. From a financial perspective, we can understand that helping someone who became financially weak due to external things like war is a good thing that causes both sides to benefit. In contrast, a situation where you helping someone who behaved irresponsibly financially for many years is not a good thing, because in this case, instead of helping the unfortunate person, you'll simply deteriorate by adopting their habits and behavior. The contagion effect can also work in your favor. This is why it's recommended to hang around with people who have achieved what you want. If, for example, you hang around all day with financially successful people, you'll learn their way of thinking and their behavior, which will lead you to improvement. That's why the idea of a mentor works in every area of life. Lesson 2. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. Many people tend to be very focused on their own needs, and therefore, they imagine that others also think about their needs as something of supreme value. When you're a child, this thinking pattern can serve you to some extent, since you're a dependent creature who receive without giving. However, at an older age, this thinking pattern of taking without giving anything in return is destructive. Every person in the world wants to advance their own interests, and that's excellent because it creates the best collaboration between people. For example, let's say you want to become a cooking expert. If you think like a person who is focused on their own needs, you'll probably approach an expert in the field and ask them to teach you without return. That expert, who probably receives thousands of similar requests per day, will simply move on. In contrast, if you offered them help in return for learning, the story would be completely different. For example, you could offer to work for them free for 2 months and see how they cook. In this case, they get a free worker and you get valuable knowledge. This kind of win-win thinking always helps succeed in life because there are almost no people who would refuse an offer where they also benefit. Lesson 3. Concentrate your forces. Focusing your energy and time on one narrow thing or on a limited number of things is your key to success. When you invest a lot of energy and time in just one thing, your progress in that area will be tremendous, and you'll probably excel in it compared to other people, which will lead you to great success. In contrast, if you invest in many things simultaneously, you'll progress in them at a terribly slow pace. A familiar example is the famous story about Warren Buffett's pilot. The story goes like this. One day, Warren Buffett, the famous investor in the world, was asked by his private pilot, how can a busy and successful person like him prioritize different things in life? Warren Buffett decided to answer his pilot in a sophisticated way, and he brought his pilot a sheet of paper and a pen. He asked the pilot to write down 25 goals and objectives that are important to the pilot. The pilot started writing the list and eventually reached 25 goals and objectives. The moment he brought Warren Buffett the list, Warren Buffett told him, "Great, now delete 20 tasks and leave only the 5 goals that are most important to you." Warren Buffett's lesson to his pilot is focus. If a person is focused on a limited goal, it is for them to reach it. The problem with most people is that they have too many different goals. They scatter their energy on dozens of different goals, and therefore, they don't progress toward any goal. Lesson 4. Plan all the way to the end. When you have a vision regarding your future, your chance of succeeding increases significantly. Most people mainly deal with putting out daily fires. They don't have precise planning for the future, and therefore they simply get swept away with life's current. This situation, where you simply flow with life's current, will usually lead you to waste a lot of energy without achieving any result. People who plan the future succeed in getting the best out of their lives with the help of patience and long-term strategic perspective. Let's look at 2 people as an example. One who plans the future and one who just goes with the flow. The first person, who plans everything to the end, knows exactly what their goal is, which helps them choose the right actions to reach the destination. In addition, it's relatively easy for him to overcome obstacles and difficulties since he has a reason to try. For example, if that person wants to retire early at 50, he will know from a young age that he must invest money and live at a standard of living that matches their income. In contrast, the second person is someone who lives only in the moment. He has no plans for the future, and he acts only in the present without any strategic thinking about the future. That person doesn't know how to act in the world, because if you don't have any goal, you don't have any way to check what the right actions are. In addition, such a person will have great difficulty dealing with difficulties, because why should he deal with difficulties if there's no purpose to the difficulty? Such people are people who will usually surrender to present comfort at the expense of the future. This is the type of people who live in a state of lifestyle inflation that causes them to enter financial crisis. In contrast, people who are willing to sacrifice some of the present for the future are the people who will usually reach an excellent financial situation. Lesson 5. Learn the art of timing. Time is the most precious resource we have, and therefore it's very important to use it wisely. The world we live in today is a world where big companies fight for our attention and our time, and in most cases, they beat us. Most people waste many hours on content that doesn't advance them anywhere in life. Therefore, whoever knows how to manage their time correctly nowadays guarantees themselves success. Think, for example, about the average person who spends at least 2 to 3 hours a day in front of screens while watching various content that don't help them, like news, stupid videos, pictures of people they don't know, and more. That person wastes over 700 hours per year that could have made them a better person. If they had worked during this time, even at a relatively low net wage of $30 per hour, they could have saved another $21,000 per year. That person could also learn financial education during this time, which could bring them enormous returns in the future. Remember that the problem isn't lack of time, because we all have 24 hours in a day. The problem is our inability to use time correctly. Lesson 6. Don't go past the mark you aimed for. Learn when to stop after your victory. The main difference between people who become slaves to money and people who live well thanks to money is the understanding that sometimes when you reach a certain goal, you need to enjoy it and not rush to the next goal. If, for example, you set yourself a goal to earn $10,000 passively and you reach the goal, you need to enjoy the goal. The moment you don't learn when to stop, you simply put yourself in an endless race that you'll eventually lose. Why will you always lose the race? Because you'll always feel that you don't have enough. You'll always feel bad about yourself, and you'll always compare yourself to others without the ability to enjoy what you've already achieved. If, for example, your goal is to become the most established person in the neighborhood, you'll achieve the goal, and then the drive to be the richest in the city will hit you. After you achieve that, you'll want to be the richest in the country, and then in the world. This race, where you just want more without enjoying and appreciating what you have, is a recipe for feelings of frustration and emptiness. It's important for me to emphasize that this doesn't mean you shouldn't have high aspirations. It means you simply need to appreciate what you have while aspiring upward. I hope you enjoyed the video, and of course, we'll meet in the next videos as well.